Hello friends, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome to the first of many videos sharing the Simon Says Stamp collaboration exclusive sets. These ones that say STAMPtember exclusive are limited edition, one and done. When they sold out, when they sell out, they're gone. So for the first collaboration, we have Pinkfresh Studio, and this is the Next Level Amazing stamp set. I'll have a link to the set as well as all the supplies directly below the video, so you guys can check it out if you're interested. So I inked up the stamp with clear embossing ink. I have some distress watercolor paper in my MISTI, and I used my anti-static powder tool, stamped there's the floral, and then there's the little, like, you know, blooms as if they're kind of being blown off in the wind. So I stamped all those with the clear embossing ink and then heat embossed everything with Simon's Detail White embossing powder. So right now it looks like nothing. So I decided to play around some more with my distress spray stains. I could have totally done this. You could do watercolors, ink smushing, you know, anything water reactive. But I've just been obsessed with the sprays. And I had this kind of random idea. So I wanted to create a really soft background. So the colors I was using were crushed olive, which I'm just obsessed with that green right now. I don't know. I go through phases. So crushed olive, speckled egg, which is just a must-have. It's the softest blue. Some Victorian velvet, and then a little bit of prize ribbon, because prize ribbon is intense. So I sprayed the sprays onto my craft mat, added water, smushed the background right into it, and then I kept spraying the background with water because I don't want it super intense, you know, really saturated. I just wanted kind of a soft wash. So once I was happy with it, I quickly dried it with my heat tool, and then I absorbed some of the big blobs of ink that were just turning into mud. And I'm going to use kind of what's left on my mat here to watercolor in the image. So this is what I mean when, like, you could use watercolors, you could use anything. Like, I've done, you know, background washes and then you watercolor the images, all those sorts of things. Again, I've been having fun with the sprays. And the thing I love about the sprays is how, like, saturated they are. So you add more water, you get that lighter consistency like I did for the background. But you use the sprays directly and I can just paint with them like this. So I also liked that the colors are kind of, you know, they're mixing on my craft mat. Some of it I wasn't even sure what I was picking up with my brush, and then I'm just painting it down and I'm like, that's a combo I wouldn't have thought of, but why not? So I am loving crushed olive and prize ribbon together. There's something about that shade of green and then the really bright blue, but I kept the prize ribbon really toned down in this because it would just take over everything. But yeah, I keep reaching for these two. And Victorian velvet is just, I need to use this more. I actually had to take the wrapping off that bottle because I'd bought it a while ago and hadn't used it. And every time I use Victorian velvet, I'm reminded of what a pretty color it is. So anyway, very simple watercoloring. Because it was heat embossed, I basically just filled it in. That's it. Dried it. And then, of course, added a ton of splatter. You can't go wrong with florals, and Pinkfresh makes so many beautiful florals. On it, like, people say it to me, like, I know I get a lot of products because I do this as a job, but I need like a second job just so I can get all the things, because Pinkfresh has amazing products. Seriously, they're hot foil, like they're coordinating sets with stamps and stencils and all. Like, I could just rave. Like, I've been a fan for a long time, but I need like a second job, or, you know, anyway, I added a ton of splatter. Used a bit of the sprays for my splatter. I added my white gouache splatter from my palette. I mixed some Perfect Pearl powder with water because you have to have shimmer splatter, because obviously. So I splattered the crap out of it like I always do. I let it dry completely, and then I die cut it with one of Simon's basic rectangle wafer dies. And then I had white heat embossed one of the sentiments there's several really nice little sentiments in this set, and I white heat embossed one onto just a scrap of the same watercolor paper. And then I just painted the speckled egg and a bit of the prize ribbon spray stains, like, directly, like not really adding any water over this, so that the heat embossing is going to resist that color and then it'll show up. and it makes it a little more, you know, it coordinates a little bit better than just a random blue cardstock would, you know. So that's also one way to get around if you don't have a lot of colors of cardstock. Use your inks, use your watercolors, etc. And you can just paint a piece of, you know, white cardstock, watercolor paper, whatever, to make things coordinate. So I left the flowers in my MISTI. And rather than take them out to do this, all I did was line up the sentiment I wanted to use, and I'm going to stamp the inside of my card base, which is, of course, Nina Desert Storm cardstock, another like must-have favorite of mine. And I only inked up the sentiment, so I just left the flowers as is. So I used my anti-static powder tool, inked up the sentiment with clear embossing ink, and then I'm going to coat that with the same white embossing powder, and then melt that with my heat tool. And then once that's done, I'll remove the sentiment from my MISTI. The flowers are all still there, so I can ink those up with Simon's Khaki ink. That is one of my go-tos for stamping on Desert Storm cardstock, because it gives it slightly deeper than a tone-on-tone. Like, you could stamp with just the clear embossing ink, but you get a much lighter impression, especially once it's fully dry. I love the Khaki ink or Simon's Cobblestone ink. Cobblestone's got a little bit more of a gray undertone to it. Either one works. So I stamped the florals, so the inside's done. And then the sentiment was dry, so I trimmed it down, and then I just tore the one edge, and then I grabbed just a little scrap of vellum while I was at it, just to give it a little something. And same thing, tore that edge, and then I'm going to just adhere those together with just a little bit of craft tacky glue. I don't want it oozing out onto the vellum. And then I'll apply the craft tacky glue on the back of the vellum, again behind the sentiment, so that it doesn't show, so you don't see any adhesive. And then I'm going to wrap. I have this like ridiculously huge roll of MISTI. It's like burlap twine. Yeah, jute twine. I like this stuff. I've used it in several videos, and I basically have a lifetime supply because the roll is massive. So yeah, I think it says on here how many. Oh yeah, 400 yards. This is going to last me a few lifetimes. So wrap that around a couple times, and then I use my reverse tweezers. Because you start the knot, you use the reverse tweezers to hold it closed so that you don't have to fiddle so much and like give your hand a cramp, you know, trying to do too many things at once. So use the reverse tweezers, and then that way it gives me some time to adjust my little bow. And then I usually edit this out of videos. I just go back and forth, like adjusting, pulling it a little bigger, pulling it smaller, just figuring out how I want it to be. And then once I'm happy with it, I'll trim the ends of the tails and it's good to go. So all sorts of little fiddling with when you're using twines and ribbons and things like that. So once I had that, I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to cover the back of this panel with Simon's Big Mama foam tape. Because one, this will adhere everything and completely flatten out this panel, but it'll also give it that little bit of dimension that I like without making it too bulky. So once I've got that adhered into place, as always, you could stop here, but I need to add just a little bit more bling. So I went through my stash and I have these Studio Katia Bluebell pearls, and they were just like the right shade of blue, like just soft and pretty. So just kind of sprinkled those around the main image and the little, you know, florals drifting off. And then once I was kind of happy with the placement, I'm going to adhere those into place with just a dab of craft tacky glue. And then once those are adhered, I'm going to pair this card with one of Simon's sea glass envelopes, and this card is complete. So I've got just this fun, easy, somewhat messy watercolor done with distress spray stains and shimmery splatter and pearls and all the fun things. And like I mentioned earlier, this set is limited edition. So I'll have a link to the set. I'll have a link to all the supplies I use, my blog post, all of that. That will be in the description box directly below the video. Stay tuned. I have a ton more videos coming this month. Thank you all so much for watching and subscribing and thumbs upping and commenting. I very much appreciate it. And I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Bye.